from which the Gurkhas take their name, uninformed that its inhabitants regarded war as sport. From this tiny mountain fort, the Gurkhas, led by Pirti Narayan Shah, had swooped into the valleys to occupy 700 frontier miles, harass India and invade Tibet. The advance of the British army didn't bother them at all. The clashes were probably unique in military history in that the British were soon to abandon their disparagement of native troops. The Battle of Kalanga, heavily outgunned, the Gurkhas fought almost to the last man, losing 520 warriors, but not before killing almost 800 British troops. An ensign who survived it wrote, "Run they would not, and of death they seemed to have no fear, though their comrades were falling around them." It was a salutary put-down for patronising attitudes, and was to lead to a remarkable alliance born of mutual admiration. After the battle, the British erected memorials to both sides, inscribing the Gurkha obelisk with the words, "They fought in fair conflict like men, and in the intervals of fighting showed us liberal courtesy." For the Gurkhas, life was never to be the same again. Their indomitable spirit, their stand here till we die philosophy, had so startled their British opponents that their commander, General David Ochterlony, said in effect, "We must get these little bounders on our side." Pragmatically, the Gurkhas' leader agreed that this was a jolly good idea. The British, he condescended, fought like lions. They're nearly as good as we are. And so was resolved a contract that was to put the Gurkhas under the aegis of the British Army for the next 180 years. The only change has been that they are now less exotically dressed.
Enough. Okay.
Today's Gurkhas, to a man, come from the same Himalayan terrain, so barren and without future that recruitment into the British Army is the ultimate prize. So fierce is the competition that candidates have to submit to the indignity of being branded like cattle, albeit with indelible ink. This is to prevent the unsuccessful leapfrogging to the next recruitment outpost and applying again under a totally different name. Major Gordon Corrigan explains the qualities they're looking for.
I suppose what we're looking for is physical and mental robustness, flexibility, intelligence, loyalty. It's actually quite easy to find those qualities amongst the Gurkhas because their own society is hierarchical. It's a society where respect is automatically given to elders, to parents. Gurkha children do what their father tells them to do. Sadly, in our society, we stopped doing that a long time ago.
Next.
It's a society where you are thrown back very much on yourself. There is no welfare state. Natural disaster is ever present. Earthquake, landslide, hailstorms, flooding, fire. Nobody is there to bail you out. You're thrown back on your own resources. And this produces a tough society. It produces a fatalistic society. Fatalism, if you're an infantry soldier, is a good thing to have because it means you don't worry too much about being shot. You are going to be shot or you aren't. And it is better to be shot gloriously and have your name live on down the generations than it is to stay at home or to run away.
Go! Good one.
For almost 100 years, the Gurkhas never fought outside India. But the 20th century was to bring two world conflicts. In the first, a plea from General Sir Ian Hamilton for them to help out at Gallipoli.
I am very anxious, if possible, to get a brigade of Gurkhas. The type of man who will, I am most certain, be most valuable on the Gallipoli Peninsula. The scrubby hillsides on the southwest faces of the plateau are just the sort of terrain where these little fellows are at their brilliant best. Each little Gurkha might be worth his full weight in gold at Gallipoli.
Test number 452.
Gallipoli 1915 was a blood-chilling disaster. Thousands of Allied troops died, and senior heads rolled, including that of Hamilton himself. In a bitter disclaimer, he had praise for only one body of soldiers.
It is Sir Ian Hamilton's most cherished conviction that had he been given more Gurkhas in the Dardanelles, then he would never have been held up by the Turks.
Next. Chest number 20, 58.5.
Selection tests for candidate Gurkhas have hardly changed down the years. Even here, back in 1928, supply outweighed demand. The only difference then was the preservation of the top knot, the sprite of hair by which a stricken Gurkha's god could haul him into some Nepalese Valhalla. Some eccentricities have always been acknowledged, such as a Gurkha's problem about running from A via B to C in straight lines.
Once you come to this sort of flat area for running side, I think they got a problem because they don't have such a sort of a good piece of land out here to do sort of a running in a flat area.
They can't work on the flat. They can only operate on.
Or they can operate quite easily on up and down side, but it's very difficult for them to do the sort of running or any sort of physical fitness on the flat area. Try गर्न पर्यो है ल थ्यांक यू भेरी मच भाइहरु धन्यवाद ल
It's a dispiriting moment for the unsuccessful. Just 6 are going through to the next processing stage, but for the losers it's back to boring old Annapurna along Nepal's M1, the ancient spice road leading to Tibet. His words, for an exemplary reason, carried weight. He is one of 26 Gurkhas to have been awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest of all military decorations, and indeed which takes precedence over honours such as Knight of the Garter or the Order of Merit. On June the 23rd, 1944, fighting with the 6 Gurkha Rifles against the Japanese in Burma, he found himself alone after his section comrades had been killed. His citation reads,
Rifleman Tul Bahadur seized the Bren gun and, firing from the hip as he went, continued to charge on the heavily bunkered position in the face of the most shattering concentration of automatic fire directed straight at him. With the dawn coming up behind him, he presented a perfect target to the Japanese. He had to move 30 yards over open ground, ankle-deep in mud, through shell holes and over fallen trees. Despite overwhelming odds, he reached the house and closed with the Japanese occupants.
He killed 4 with his gun and 3 with his kukri. Still, the citation didn't tell it all. When relief finally arrived, this benign-looking gentleman acquired a flamethrower and incinerated a further 30 Japanese in a dugout. He regarded this as appropriate reparation.
And that's you know, something that the Gurkhas have done, you know, since time immemorial for us. You know, they've charged on prefix machine gun positions just with the kukri in their mouth, gripping it by their teeth. They drop the Lee Enfield or the FM FAL, the SLR, like lads like to call it, and just use the kukri. And as you've just heard there, they close with the enemy and be that fast that they take them all out with the kukri. And that's happened since Gallipoli, World War II, straight up to like Tiprasab Pun in Afghanistan a couple of years back, about 2 years ago I think it was, maybe a bit more. He was on top of a small building and then it got attacked by loads of Mujahideen or Taliban, as you call them now. And he killed everyone with his machine gun and ran out of bullets. And then, as they were coming up the ladder, he decided to take the machine gun off the tripod and knock shite out of them all with the tripod and killed it all with the tripod. I mean, Tiprasab Pun is his name. He's all over YouTube and that. You'll see the Queen giving him his VC and that. But yeah, great man.
Off come the battered thongs to be replaced by kit that for many will be the first words of English they'll ever speak.
Shoes Highlander, right?
Shoes Highlander. Shoes Highlander. SPT red. SPT green.
Vest, PT, green. It can now be a puzzling world. There is, for example, the ultimate challenge of new technology, the shoelace.
Let's say kyo. Let's say patareko no pardena okay. You change you change.
Everything is an exciting discovery. But can they imagine what lies ahead?
It will change my life because we'll get something from British Army and we'll show them. I'll help my family from poverty. That's.
What does he expect England to be like? What does he hope to see there?
I think England is a very big city, big country. There are my big city. I like to see that cities. And I like to see that big buildings. In Nepal we don't have that kind of building. So I like to see that.
The Yak man already knows everything about England.
विकसित नै ठाउँ छ धेरै नै विकसित ठाउँ छ
He says England is a true development country and he says it's very cold places.
Just what you'd expect from a chap who comes from Everest. Is there anything he wants to see?
यस्तै प्रातः लाउड सम्बन्धी अब यस्तैहरु देखिन्छ होला
He says that he would like to see the how is in the England the animals, what kind of animals are there. Some of these yaks milk is made of yak's milk.
In case English restaurants don't come up to scratch, he's brought his own food. Yak's milk cheese, hard as marble, though it doesn't taste as good. Old Army sweats will notice something missing here. No bawling, screaming, or obscenity on the barrack square. There's a warm affinity between NCOs and men. The reason is that the men don't need to be motivated. They already are.
First time I reached to training depot, and my section commander was there, but I didn't know. And he called me up in a bad language. And I was like, surprised, really surprised. What sort of people are here? Who even don't know how to speak to the people. That's my experience.
All the section commander, they used to talk rude words. That I know that word. That's why. No, exciting.
Rude words?
Yeah.
Why do you think they did that?
Because if they call, if they don't use rude words, they cannot. They cannot make soldier from the civilian.
Equally, the British officers have to adapt to native Gurkha attitudes and customs. There's no place for patronising haughtiness.
Full nudity when you're washing is not tolerated at all. The boys, in fact, probably wash all the time with their swimming trunks on. You never point at anyone at any time. If you're pointing, you have to use your thumb. Or if you're pointing, someone asks you where something is, you'll see a lot of the Gurkhas pointing with their chin. Depending on how close or far away that is, if they're far away, they'll make a big gesture with their chin, and if they're close, they'll just jerk their head in their direction. There are other ones. You would never ever touch any of your soldiers' necks or shoulders, because they believe that in Nepalese tradition, if you touch someone else's neck or shoulders, then you'll make them be ill. They'd probably get a goiter or something growing on their neck. If you do inadvertently touch someone's neck, or have to for a reason, to get rid of the evil spirit that you've put into them, you have to blow on your fingers. Just a quick blow on your fingers afterwards.
At the end of their basic training, a pandit administers the oath of allegiance. They're mercenaries, they have a king of their own, and yet there's no more solemn moment in their lives. I swear I will be faithful and bear allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, in person and with dignity against all enemies. I will obey all orders of Her Majesty and of the generals and officers set over me.